The first face-to-face showdown is finally here, and Newsmax TV has got it covered with live expert analysis. Watch our special presidential debate coverage on Monday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern. Watch it with the Newsmax app.
Welcome back. On this day in history, September 23rd, 1932, Detroit Tigers catcher Ray Hayworth and his wife Virginia welcomed their second son, someone with whom I share a name, John David Hayworth, but the senior. Happy 84th birthday, Dad. Also on this day in history in 1952, after California Senator and Republican vice presidential candidate Richard Nixon had been accused of improprieties relating to a fund established by his backers to help reimburse him for political expenses, and with his place on the Republican ticket in doubt, he flew to Los Angeles, delivering a half-an-hour television address from the NBC studios known as the Checkers Speech, in which he defended himself, attacked his opponents, and urged the audience to contact the Republican National Committee and let them know whether he should remain on the ticket. Mr. Nixon remained on that ticket, with Dwight David Eisenhower served 2 terms as vice president, and after losing a race for the presidency in 1960, was elected in his own right in 1968. Following re-election in 1972, the difficulties with Watergate forced his resignation, but the high point of his presidency was his trip to China, and that is the subject of today's American Moment.
His presidency was one of the most vexing in American history. Mention the name Richard Milhous Nixon, and some will always remember him as the president who resigned over Watergate. But many others will credit him with one of the greatest diplomatic achievements, the reestablishment of relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China.
As I have pointed out on a number of occasions over the past 3 years, there can be no stable and enduring peace without the participation of the People's Republic of China and its 750 million people.
For 25 years, diplomatic relations between the two great nations had chilled, following the United States' decision to recognize Taiwan as the legitimate government of China. President Nixon and his then National Security Advisor, Dr. Henry Kissinger, reached out to his communist adversary to change that.
The meeting between the leaders of China and the United States is to seek the normalization of relations between the two countries, and also to exchange views on questions of concern to the two sides.
On February 21st, 1972, President Nixon, along with his wife Pat, arrived in Beijing. He was feted by the Chinese and honored by no less a figure than Chairman Mao himself. Richard Nixon's opening of China to the West has been described as genius, the boldest diplomatic move on the global chessboard in a century. In one stroke, Nixon had separated communist China from the Soviet Union, reducing the power of the communist bloc and paving the way for the eventual end of the Cold War. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.
And since the name of this program is America Talks Live, we're pleased to welcome back in Javier Manjarres, who runs the Shark Tank political blog in Florida. And we're happy to take more of your calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX. First up from Baltimore, Gene is on the line. Hi, Gene.
Hello. How are you?
Doing fine, sir. What's on your mind?
I just, with the things going down in North Carolina, how come nobody ever brings the arrest records up on the gentleman that was shot?
Well, you have raised that right now, and as we know from reports that have not gotten a lot of scrutiny from the alphabet networks, there was a lengthy police record involving the now departed man there in Charlotte. So that is a point worth noting. What was the most egregious thing on his record to you, or is it just the fact the press hasn't covered it?
Yes, he was convicted for assault with a deadly weapon, which means if he was convicted and sent to jail for 7 years, he shouldn't have a license to carry a gun or have a gun. So right there, when the police officer pulled him over, he probably already had it on the computer, knowing that the record was there. So, but the lady from the NAACP says that he shouldn't have to relinquish his gun, which he had to have it illegally.
Gene, you make a good point. Javi, you want to react?
You would have to have it illegally. If he's a convicted felon, they're not going to give him They're not going to give him a license to carry a gun or even own a gun. But forget about his record. He pulled a gun on a cop. He should have been shot, and he was shot, and deservingly, because we didn't know what his motives were, what his intentions were when he had that firearm in his hand. Neither did the police officer. Well,
we know we have more calls in the queue, and let's go back to Philadelphia, this time welcoming John to America Talks Live. Hiya, John.
JD, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Thanks for having a call and say hello to Javier.
Sounds good. He's happy to be here with you and hearing from you, John.
All right, a few things that bother me. One is, all she talks about is Trump's tax returns. I'm not interested in his tax returns. Good for him if he made it, okay? What I'm interested in is those speeches she made on Wall Street. She's hiding something. She won't show them.
Very valid point. Let's get Javi's reaction. You know, John seems to typify much of the country. They don't care about the Trump tax returns, but Hillary and all those speeches with all those huge fees to Wall Street bankers.
Right, well, they already know that Donald Trump is a millionaire. Hillary Clinton and the Democrats are letting people know. They want you to know that. But what about her money? What about the Clinton Foundation? What about those what does Hillary Clinton know about the 4 deaths in Benghazi? I think that's what's more pressing for Americans.
It is a trust problem. One guy we always trust because he always has nice things to say. One of my old constituents from Buckeye, Arizona, Rick is on the line. Buckeye Rick, it's morning out there for you. We say good afternoon to you from the East Coast.
Yes, hey, good morning, JD. I'll tell you, we went to the Mike Pence rally last night here.
And what did you think?
So we had a great turnout. We met Joel Pyle, and he would share with us how he campaigned for you a little bit, and we just had a good time with him. Mike's message was right on point. In the sincerity, I'll tell you, I believe these are two men that want to see America made great again.
Let me turn, Rick, thanks for the call. Let's get Javi's reaction. Mike Pence, as I used to greet him, Mike Pence none the richer, but he has enriched this Republican ticket. 30 seconds on Pence.
I think Mike is great. I met Mike while he was in the Congress. We got along great, interviewed him, saw him out in New Orleans a couple times. Great guy, great choice. I think he'll do great as a vice president. And if he can oversee this disgruntled, or whatever you want to call it, Senate, well, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, as Dick Cheney told us, and Mike says he wants to model his vice presidency after Dick Cheney. Of course, Vice President Cheney had served a lot of years in the House, and he came over to see us, and he said, imagine this, fellas, a man of the House presiding over the Senate. And us House members really dug that. And something else I think you're going to enjoy, too, Hillary Clinton went on a liberal podcast to show her lighter side. Check out her interaction with Zach Galifianakis right here.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Mrs. Clinton. We should stay in touch. What's the best way to reach you? Email?
You've got mail.
Yeah, Hillary, right there. I guess that's supposed to show her humanity. I don't know so much if it's that deadpan stare or that weird video where she was shouting at the camera earlier.
Yeah. I don't think she was happy with this guy.
You don't think she knew about that ahead of time?
I'm sure she did, but I don't think she took. I think she took issue with it. I mean,
well,
I don't know.
Yeah. The whole thing is she's supposed to do a slow burn. The problem with Mrs. Clinton is it's just like when things are not going her way. It's not a slow burn. It's like this intense, you will comply, you will comply. Javi, thanks for your time as always, and thanks for your calls here on America's Live. Now, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax Prime, Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris and former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, plus the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, my old colleague Pete Hoekstra. We will be looking for you again the time, 8 o'clock Eastern, Newsmax Prime. Until then, for those you see and those you don't, J.D. Hayworth saying stay brave, stay free, stay tuned, and thanks for watching.